Hello everyone and welcome to part 11 of this series of Life on the Railway. Today we are going underground and not with the jam. Underground railways are a familiar part of many city transport systems, but the pioneering lines were very different from those we have today. The first, a Metropolitan Railway, was built in London and was designed to link the main lines of Paddington, Euston and King's Cross. The line was not, strictly speaking, in a tunnel, but was constructed by digging a deep cutting, then building a cover over the top of it. It opened in 1863, long before the development of electric trains, and all of the carriages were hauled by steam locomotives. It was a huge success, with over 30,000 passengers crowding to take this novel form of transport on the first day. By the end of the first year, some 10 million passengers had used the line. Although the engineer, John Fowler, had designed engines that created as little smoke and steam as possible, there was no distinguishing the fact that trains were dirty. Victorian gentlemen on the way to their city offices were not pleased to find their immaculate shirts spotted with smuts, nor were ladies happy to be seen wearing grubby lace. Another engineer, Peter Barlow, not from Coronation Street, came up with an alternative system. His railway opened in 1870 and ran in a circular tunnel just 6 foot 8 inches in diameter under the Thames between Tower Hill and Southwark. Passengers were taken up and down in a steam-powered lift, after which they get into a small car for a trip under the river and were hauled by a cable worked by two small steam engines. It was very inexpensive. Passengers could make the one-way trip for just a penny, but the cables kept jamming, just like Bob Marley. It was all dismantled. Stairs were built to replace the lifts, and people had to walk rather than ride through to the other side. However, that was not the end of the use of cables for underground railways. They were used on the Scottish District Subway in Glasgow that opened in 1896 and ran as a 6.5 mile loop that crossed the River Clyde twice if one wasn't enough. The cable remained in use until the late 1930s. Steam was never really going to be the answer for underground railways, and there was a successful precedent to follow. In 1883, an enterprising entrepreneur called Magnus Volk began operating an electric railway in Brighton in East Sussex. It still runs today, giving holidaymakers a ride along the seafront at a very impressive 10 miles per hour. When London got its second underground railway, the City and South London, it was a genuine tube line, and the decision was taken to power it by electricity. It was opened in 1890 by the Prince of Wales, later King Edward VII, and at once proved its superiority to steam. But the system was far from perfect. The carriages, like modern tube trains, had benches along both sides, but the upholstery climbed high up the walls, leaving narrow slits for windows. The company had decided that as there was nothing to see underground, nothing else was needed, but the carriages were stuffy and were soon nicknamed the padded cells. The new system required a complete rethink of existing railway practice. A new safety device introduced for drivers, known as the dead man's handle, was invented. The driver had to keep pressure on the handle at all times. If he took his hand away, the power automatically cut off. As always, we end this video with an interesting fact, and 2013 marked the 150th anniversary of the opening of the first part of the London Underground from Paddington to Farringdon. Test runs in 2012 in preparation for the event saw steam trains pulling into London Underground stations after the close of normal services, to the amazement of late night onlookers who must have thought they were probably pissed. Who knows? So there we go, that is the end of this video. If you have liked it, please give it a like and a share and a subscribe. Don't forget to click the notification bell to never miss a video, and goodbye for now.